And just to kind of say what I just said in a slightly simpler way, I think basically this is going to come down to the sweepers. If Tom has a reasonable draw, Josh probably isn't going to be able to survive without some sort of a sweeper. So that's sort of the thing that you're going to want to look for on Josh's side of the table. If the board does get gummed up, Tom can go pretty big with his creatures, specifically Thalia's Lieutenant, and Always Watching can, pump his guys up so they can push through blockers. But also Griff's Boon is going to be one of the ways that he can, push damage.
Well, Tom's just going to lead off here with an Expedition Envoy. Josh Grace does have a Needle Spires and passing the turn back. Tom, for only having 18 lands in his deck, he has 4 in his main deck, which is 4 in his hand, which is quite a few. Hopefully he doesn't draw any more. That Expedition Envoy is going to get in for 2 damage, take Josh Grace down to 18. He's going to fire back with a Sylvan Advocate, though. This is going to play some really good defense if Tom doesn't have something like Always Watching to buff his team.
Yeah, Always Watching would be the perfect thing to play here. Tom really doesn't want to blow a Declaration in Stone this early, but he does want to keep attacking. So I have to imagine that he's going to commit more power and toughness to the board in some shape or form, where there's just more creatures or an Always Watching. But Tom is Stone Cold Master, and he'll just always make the best play.
Yeah, he figures it out. It's funny watching him play because he does a lot of things where he'll fan his hand out and then close it up and sit and look, and then fan his hand out and then close it up and sit and look. And I know from testing
through all the
and I know from testing with Tom and playing against him in videos and such, it's just like you're waiting, come on, man, I know you have the best play already. Let's go ahead and crush me with it.
There we go.
And here we have a Kytheon, a Thalia's Lieutenant, going to pump his team. He's going to be able to attack through, well, not through this Sylvan Advocate, but give him the option of trading if he wants to.
Yeah, she's definitely going to take the trade.
Advocate's going to trade off with that Expedition Envoy. Tom still has a pretty sizable board here, and Josh is going to take 3 points of damage and drop down to 15.
Yeah, Thalia's Lieutenant plus Kytheon is certainly much better than Always Watching. So Tom is off to just a great start. Josh, to his credit, played one of the best, so far he's played his best possible draw. It doesn't really get much better for him than turn 2 Sylvan Advocate, but he's way behind, and again, without a sweeper, all Tom needs is a reasonable draw, and things are going to go pretty bad for him, or pretty well for him, excuse me.
This is one of those ways that these aggressive green decks or white decks can just punish everybody else when they're on the draw. Your deck is just set up to use all of your mana every turn in the first few turns, and not everybody's deck is set up to do that. Right. So here we see, he's played a 1-mana spell, a 2-mana spell, and then a 2 and a 1-mana spell. So he's used all 6 mana available to him over the course of 3 turns, which is real important.
Yeah, and the fact that Tom got to play a spell on turn 1 and then 2 spells on turn 3 means that despite Josh having a good hand where he played essentially on curve, he's still quite far behind.
All right, so Josh was able to find a Plains off of that Oath of Nissa. Lets him cash in that Declaration in Stone on a Knight of the White Orchid. Going to give Tom a clue, but Tom's able to just fire back with a Dragon Hunter and a Knight of the White Orchid. Going to grow that Thalia's Lieutenant and just relentlessly keep attacking.
Yeah, quite the savage beating. A Radiant Flames would be perfect here.
So this is a good spot for a Radiant Flames.
Nissa, not so much.
Yeah, fortunately, we just have Nissa.
Yeah.
Vastwood Seer. It's going to get another forest for Josh Grace, but that is really not going to do much.
I wonder if this will be one of the big themes of today's people playing mid-range decks built to beat other mid-range decks, and then people looking to take advantage of that.
Well, when we first sat down and we got to see the players behind them at the other feature matches, I saw Jerry Thompson. I'm excited to see what Jerry's playing, because if Jerry is on an aggressive white deck, that probably was the good call for the weekend. Yeah,
probably. Jerry's pretty good at choosing a deck.
So Josh just has that Nissa. He's going to play Cinderglade untapped and then pass the turn. Tom's going to cash in that clue now just to see what kind of options he can find before he goes to his attack step. Here comes a Town Gossip Monger that's going to give him a clue. It's going to pump his Thalia's Lieutenant. Here's an Expedition Envoy. This is going to pump his Thalia's Lieutenant.
And is that?
It's not going to be.
It's 8 damage, I think. Have to imagine that Josh is just dead on board now.
Yeah.
Those lieutenant's too big to be caught up in a sweeper. The Gideon is there anyway to make it so that, really nothing is going to go Josh's way in this game.
Gideon's just going to untap that Valious Lieutenant, and that is going to be game over.
Smoked.
Just turn 5, attack you, you're basically dead.
Yeah.
Man, these humans decks can come out of the gates, and I think that we all kind of have forgotten about that since the first couple of weeks of Standard. Let's go ahead and take a look at...
When you say we, don't include me. I haven't forgotten about these humans decks.
I think you might have a little. Let's take a look at the player sideboards. Tom has 1 Griff's Boon, 3 Handworm Militia Captain, 4 Needle Spires, 4 Reckless Bushwhacker, a Silk Wrap, and 2 copies of Stasis Snare. What do you think he does here?
I think that he may consider taking out some number of the Griff Spoons for the Silk Wrap and Stasis Snares, but honestly, I think if I were him, I would prefer just to have the Griff Spoons and basically make no changes to my deck. In situations like this, like if I'm Tom, I'm just usually going to assume that my opponent's not prepared for me, and that I can just sort of keep doing what I'm doing and have it go well.
You don't think that this is a matchup for the Needle Spires and the Bushwhacker?
I don't think so. I think the Needle Spires are basically for when you expect your opponent to have a lot of removal, and the Reckless Bushwhackers are to make it so that you can rebuild after a Languish. So I like them against the heavy removal decks. But I don't think a Naya deck is really going to have that much removal. I think they're going to be looking to block more, and their removal is going to be a little on the clunkier side, like not quite as many sweepers. So I think that Tom is more likely to just want to jam a bunch of his main deck threats and then just use a Griff Spoon or Declaration of Stone to kind of round out his threat base to make sure that it can finish Josh off.
All right. Now on Josh's side, we have 3 Rending Volley, a Hidden Dragon Slayer, a Den Protector, a Clip Wings, a Chandra Flamecaller, 2 Dromoka's Command, a Declaration in Stone, 2 Radiant Flames, a Gideon Ally of Zendikar, a Dragon Lord Dromoka, and a Hallowed Moonlight. What do we think comes in here?
So the cards that jump out at me are the Rending Volleys, the Radiant Flames, the Chandra, and the Dragon Lord Dromoka. The cards that I think can also come in are Declaration of Stone and Dromoka's Command. I don't like them quite as much. Dromoka's Command is not always the best removal spell when you're behind or you have potentially smaller creatures. It can be a really big blowout, and like when I'm playing the green-white tokens deck, I really like Dromoka's Command because you can kill Always Watching and maybe fight something. But Josh's deck, it's a little, because it's 3 colors, it's a little slower, and he is more likely to be behind, not necessarily have the creature, and Dromoka's Command can be a little awkward. So depending on how much he wants to take out, he might bring it in, but I think that the Rending Volleys, Radiant Flames, Chandras, and Dragon Lords are going to be more than enough for him to bring in.
I could see that. Now while our players are finishing up their sideboarding here as we go into Game 2, let's take a quick second and look at this real sweet pre-release playmat for Eldritch Moon. It's a limited edition Eldritch Groove playmat with Lily Llama Vess, and this is something that you used to only be able to get this in Roanoke for our parody pre-release playmats.
Yeah, I was planning a trip for the next pre-release.
Yeah, well now you don't have to, because these are going to be available at participating stores. So if you own a store and want to have these in your shop for the pre-release, or if you just want your LGS to have these for the pre-release, just have them go.starcitygames.com/pre-release, and they can sign up and talk to starcitygames.com, get some of these in their shop for this limited edition playmat. All of these are really cool. I really liked all of the Dragons of Antarkir one.
Yeah, they were really sweet.
I really liked all the ones in Shadows over Innistrad. And this one is real sweet.
Yeah, all the cool fun stuff that Star City makes is just extra things that are all pretty awesome.
Lily Llama Vess.
Yeah.
With her little snake dancers there. So as we go in here, Game 2, for those of you just joining us, Tom Ross is on White-Red Humans, currently up a game over Josh Grace on Naya midrange. Josh is going to have a decent start here with a Hidden Dragon Slayer.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
He's just going to play it face up as a life-linking creature. Tom does have a Town Gossipmonger on the battlefield, but does he really want to trade it and give Josh a life?
You know, it's interesting too because Tom may consider the implications of a card like Jamoka's Command. So Tom may be thinking, you know, if I play a creature, do I want to flip my Tom Gossipmonger now? If I do, that means I'll have to tap my creatures, and that means that the Hidden Dragon Slayer would be able to get in for an attack potentially. And, you know, it's definitely something to pause and consider.
Well, it looks like we're not going to have an attack out of Tom. He is just going to play a Needle Spire, so it looks like he brought them in from the sideboard, and an Anointer of Champions. Josh is going to fire back with a Deathmist Raptor, so now Tom might not even want to flip that creature into...
He's got to trade with that Deathmist Raptor at some point.
Yeah, he is going to have to trade with it. And that Anointer will let him, he'll trade with it without having to sink any more mana into it.
Yeah.
Deathmist Raptor is not a card that we've seen a lot of lately.
And Declaration of Stone is certainly the sort of thing you want to deal with it. Just get that thing exiled so it doesn't come back.
All right, Declaration's going to get rid of it. It's going to give Josh a clue. He's going to attack in with his Insighted Rabble. Anointer of Champions is going to pump it after no blocks. 3 damage, going to take Josh down to 17. Tom's going to follow it up with a Kytheon, Hero of Akros.
And Josh is kind of in an awkward situation with this Hidden Dragon Slayer because blocking with it isn't really that great. I guess threatening the block on the Anointer of Champions means that the Kytheon won't be able to flip this turn, but it can't really, you know, run profitable blocks on anything else.
Yeah, at this point I think it's probably just something where you save some damage, gain some life, and then try and live to the point where you can use a sweeper like Radiant Flames or Tragic Arrogance.
Yeah, but I mean, so far it hasn't saved any damage or gained any life.
Not yet. It can't attack, it can't block.
Yeah. So it's been a little awkward. But we'll see what Tom does this turn. He does have the option to attack with the flipped Incited.
Well, he does have to attack with Incited Rabble.
Well, yeah, he has to, but he can also attack with the Kytheon and threaten a pump into destructibility. So, see what Tom wants to do here.
Maybe he has something even like Always Watching, or just another Declaration in Stone.
Always Watching is really nice because now he can just attack with everything. He can even attack with the Anointer if he wanted. It's a 2/2 that can pump itself to be a 3/3.
Yeah, so it looks like he's not going to attack with the Anointer. I wonder if he didn't attack with the Anointer because he didn't want that Kytheon to trigger.
Maybe. I have to imagine that the Kytheon trigger would be profitable for him, though.
So Josh is going to gain some life on the attack from that Hidden Dragon Slayer blocking.
Maybe that Anointer specifically says other creature, and that's why he didn't attack with it, but not 100% sure. Either way, this is one of the super, super fancy Nissa Vastwood Seers that are, you know, that like limited.
San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, that is not an altar. That is one of the extra secret rare cards of Magic.
Ultra mega awesome rare.
Yeah.
So the cycle of Planeswalkers from Origins, you can get Nissa Vastwood Seer, black on black foil.
So sweet.
It's real cool. It's not real easy to see, but we can kind of see the green. So Anissa is going to get a Forest. Declaration in Stone is going to take care of that Incited Rabble. It's going to give Tom a clue, as if he needed one. He's already on one of the good decks for the weekend.
Yeah.
But Josh is just going to pass the turn back. It's pretty important to note that Deathmist Raptor is still in the graveyard for Josh. And at any point, he can just use find a Den Protector to get it back, and that's a lot of value.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is Josh is at a pretty high life total, and Tom does not have much of a board. So this game's basically going the way that Josh wants it to. Like I said before, I think this matchup is pretty play-draw dependent. So we may just see a match where Tom blows his opponent out when he's on the play, Josh blows Tom out when he's on the play, and then, you know, in the decider, just because Tom's on the play, he's going to kind of blow his opponent out. But we'll see.
Well, it looks like the tap ability is not another creature because he just attacked and then pumped his own Anointer. Going to play out a couple more 1-drops that are now 3/2s.
Yeah, I wonder why Tom didn't attack with it the previous turn. Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if he just valued it really highly and didn't want to trade it with the Deathmist Raptor.
All right, well, Josh is just going to cash in a clue on his turn. He finds an expedition. I think that's a Canopy Vista. And just going to lay down a Sylvan Advocate. Let's see what else he's thinking about doing. Dramoka's Command.
So he did bring it in. Well, he must have taken out a lot of cards.
Oh, so he's just going to put a counter on his Nissa and then fight with the Advocate. Do you like that over just getting rid of that Always Watching?
I think I would have gotten rid of the Always Watching. It's just like too much power and toughness on the board. And it persists through sweepers.
Yeah, that counter on the Nissa seems really irrelevant, especially considering he can just flip it next turn and make a 5/5.
I agree. But I'm sure Josh has a good reason for it. Maybe we'll ask him after the match.
Tom's going to cash in his clue. He's got his Silk Wrap for that Sylvan Advocate. Now we've got these 3/2s that are crashing in.
I like the idea of like diversifying the strength of your threats. So if Sylvan Advocate is like the one good creature that you have, it's nice to put the counter on the other creature, but
yeah, well, I mean, chumping with the Nissa here could have, it's the exact same thing if he would have gotten rid of the Always Watching, right? Like it still could have chumped the 2/1. Well, traded the 2/1. So Josh is going to take 3 down to 13.
So Tom's got to consider cards like Avacyn and Secure the Wastes in this position. Both of them would be utterly devastating for him, so we may see him just not play around them and attack anyway. But I'm sure Tom's thinking about them.
Looks like we've got another Always Watching. This is real important because he has 2 copies of Needle Spires in his deck. Next turn he's going to be able to fire one up, and that's going to be a 3/3 double or a 4/4 double strike.
And I didn't see him tap on his creature or Josh's life total go down, so I think Tom actually respected the possibility of an Avacyn or Secure the Wastes there and didn't attack with his creature.
Yep, he did not attack. Josh is going to use a Radiant Flames just to take care of that Expedition Envoy, and I think that we might see Needle Spires here get in for 8 damage. That's a lot for a land.
Yeah, that is a lot for a land. This is not what Richard Garfield intended for Needle Spire, I'll tell you.
Well, a Knight of the White Orchid is going to give him some value to get him another land. Now he can't activate that Needle Spires. Let's see if he has another card.
Yeah, I have to imagine.
Oh, he gets to play a land for his turn.
Nice.
Activate Needle Spires, crash in.
We are so silly for doubting Tom.
So silly.
We
and it has
he's
Vigilance,
do the maximum
so it
damage.
doesn't even tap to attack. It's just like the best Celestial Colonnade ever.
Yeah. So this is going to be a little tough for Josh. He was looking good for almost this entire game, but things seem to have fallen apart in these last couple turns. It looks like he's just kind of like out of action.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that using the Dramoka's Command to take care of the Always Watching, and then that makes it so that you don't feel forced to block with your Nissa the following turn.
Right.
And then you can flip it with your 6th land.
Yeah, I wonder if Josh just cut out a lot of his more expensive stuff in order to play.
Well, Tragic Arrogance is going to give him back a 4/5 Sylvan.
Yeah, which is kind of nice. Tom still gets to just attack, activate Needle Spire.
And attack.
And Needle Spire is going to have to trade with the Sylvan Advocate, which means the Knight of the White Orchid is going to get through.
For 3, and then Tom just has another Needle Spire behind it.
Yeah. Ooh. Wow,
well, and
Josh just concedes. Sounds like a pretty rough spot. I think that Josh probably just didn't have much going on in those last few turns. Things kind of fell apart. He saw the writing on the wall and just, didn't want to play another turn.
Well, Tom Ross, currently 11th on our leaderboard, but we all know he's #1 in the heart. Is going to take this match 2-0 over Josh Grace with his White-Red Humans deck. The Battle of Needle Spires is going to go into the favor of Tom the Boss Ross. I do believe that we'll have a backup match that we can move to once they're ready for us.
And Tom did it without a leather jacket. I mean, it's a little hot down here, so I can understand
he would
not bringing it, but
he would have to be a maniac to wear that leather jacket in this weather.
I mean, but it's the leather jacket, dude.
Granted,
come on.
Granted, Tom is a bit of a maniac.